There is a number that decides your entire life, and you have never once looked at it. It isn't your salary, it isn't your bank balance, it isn't your credit limit, it isn't how much you've got saved, it isn't anything that shows up in an app. It's a number that lives inside you. You consult it dozens of times a day without even noticing, and it is the most precise measurement in existence of how short on money you are at this exact moment. I'm going to hand you that number before the end of this video, I promise. But if I told you right now, you'd shrug, you'd scroll on, and your life would go on exactly as it was. And that is the one thing I cannot let happen. So hold that curiosity, because first I have to show you how you got here, and more importantly, why none of this is your fault. Say that back to yourself, because it goes against everything you've been told. You are not bad with money. The ground moved under your feet, and nobody sent you the memo. Let me prove it, and let me do it fast, because I don't want to bore you with economics. I want to make you angry with them. Consumer prices in this country are running around 4.2% year over year, pushed up by energy, oil and gas. That is more than double the Federal Reserve's official 2% target. And here's the number that should stop you cold. Inflation in America has not touched 2% since February of 2021. 5 years. You have been paying a tax on the simple act of being alive for 5 straight years, and nobody ever called it a tax. Now, the people who are supposed to fix it. The Fed just held interest rates between 3.5% and 3.75%, and the market is now betting on at least one hike this year, with more possibly coming next. The new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, stood in front of the world's central bankers and said flatly that anyone hoping for easy money is going to be disappointed. He's in front of Congress this week, and they're going to grill him about the exact thing that's squeezing you. Translate all of that out of finance speak and into the only language that matters, the language of your wallet. The cost of existing went up. The cost of borrowing went up. And your paycheck? Well, you already know what your paycheck did. But here's the part that tightens the jaw. While you were standing in the cereal aisle doing arithmetic, the news is telling you the economy is strong. Stocks at record highs, earnings crushing expectations, champagne. And you look at that, then you look at your balance, and you feel genuinely insane. Like there's a party going on somewhere, and your invitation got lost in the mail. You are not insane. And this is the most uncomfortable statistic in this entire video. Between March and June, the AI companies inside the S&P 500 rose about 45%. 45. Now take those companies out of the index. Just them. Everything else, every other company, every other sector, the real economy of people who build things, sell things, serve things, deliver things, was basically flat. Zero. Sit with that. The party is real. It's just happening in a very small room, and the door is made of money. If you already owned assets, you got richer in your sleep. If you didn't, you paid the inflation bill and watched through the glass. So when you ask yourself, why am I working this hard and getting nowhere? That is your answer. You are not running slow. Somebody turned the treadmill up and forgot to tell you. Now stay with me, because this is where it gets personal. There are 3 words, 3 completely ordinary words that come out of your mouth almost every week. And those 3 words expose how short on money you are more precisely than any budgeting app, any spreadsheet, any financial advisor alive. You've said them recently. You said them without hearing yourself say them. I'm going to tell you what they are in a few minutes, and when I do, I need you to be brutally honest with yourself about how often you say them, because the frequency is the diagnosis. But before that, we have to talk about the anesthesia. Because the human brain is a magnificent machine for not feeling pain. When money gets tight, you don't panic, you adapt. And the adaptation is so quiet, so smooth, so polite that it slips right past you. You start pumping gas with your back turned, nozzle in, eyes on the phone, tap to pay, and some careful part of you makes absolutely sure you never look at the total. You open the delivery app and tell yourself you're not that hungry tonight, when the truth is you wanted the $22 entree, you saw the $22, and your appetite quietly renegotiated itself down to match your balance. Your hunger has better financial discipline than you do. You hit the tip screen and you freeze, not out of stinginess, out of arithmetic. Standing there running a moral calculation on a touchscreen while an actual human being watches your face, trying to find the smallest number you can press and still like yourself afterward. There's a name for that exact range. It's called being stretched, and it never shows up on a statement. It shows up in the 2 seconds you hesitate. And then there's the list, the invisible list. Everyone has one. It's the list of things you'll deal with when things settle down. The cracked screen you've been swiping past shards on for 8 months. The check engine light you've decided is more of a suggestion. The crown the dentist recommended. The prescription you're stretching. The eye appointment. The tire that's fine, probably, mostly. And you tell yourself you're postponing expenses. You're not. You are postponing your own life on an installment plan that never comes due. And I need to say this part looking straight at you. That is not shame. That is engineering. You are running every single day a survival operation more complex than most corporations manage, with an entire finance department, a conference room, and software that costs 6 figures. You are juggling due dates, grace periods, minimum payments, priorities, and desires in real time, in your head, while smiling at people. You are the CFO of a company in permanent crisis, unpaid, unstaffed, no vacation, no applause. And that's the tragedy of it. Nobody claps for you. Worse, you don't clap for you. You look in the mirror and call yourself irresponsible, when the truth is you are a survivor with a resume. All right, I'm keeping both promises now. The 3 words, the phrase you say without ever hearing yourself say it, the one that measures how short you are down to the decimal, is this: can it wait? That's it. That's the whole diagnostic. It's not how much you earn, it's how often that question crosses your mind. Once a month, you've got breathing room. Once a week, you're on the edge. Every single day, then you are not managing money anymore. You are managing a fire and calling it adulthood. And now, the number, the one that decides your entire life. Here it is. What is the smallest surprise expense that would wreck your month? Put an actual figure on it. $400? $600? $1,000? The amount that, if it landed on you tomorrow, out of nowhere, would throw you straight into triage, moving things around, calling somebody, putting it on the card you swore you were done with, lying awake at 2 a.m. doing math at the ceiling. That is how short on money you are. Not what's in the bank, what stands between you and the edge. And the cruelest thing inflation does isn't raising the price of eggs. It's shortening that distance, a little bit every month, so gradually that you never notice the edge getting closer until you're standing right on it. So what do you actually do with this? First, stop negotiating with your own dignity. You are not broke because you're stupid. You were squeezed by a system where the growth pooled into a few hands and the cost got spread across all of them. Second, pick one thing off the invisible list. One, the smallest one, and handle it this week. Not because it'll fix your finances. It won't. But because it breaks the spell that everything can wait. Because everything can wait, right up until you become one of the things that can wait. And third, the one that actually matters. That number you just imagined, the surprise that takes you down, it does not have to stay that size forever. It isn't fate. It's a distance. And every single dollar you put between yourself and that edge pushes it a little farther away. This was never about getting rich. It's about buying back your right to say, no, this can't wait. Because real wealth was never a big number in an account. Real wealth is being able to live without doing math before you breathe. So let's find out how short we all really are. Put your number in the comments. The surprise expense that would wreck your month. Just the figure. No explanation, no excuses, no shame. Because here's what happens when thousands of people put that number in the same place at the same time. Everyone finds out, all at once, that they were never alone in this. And loneliness, my friend, has always been the highest interest rate we pay.